Now, you mentioned Bill Dillinger, one of the famous coaches from the University of Oregon in the 70s and 80s. Who were some big influences on your coaching regimen, and who did you learn from?
My college coach was George Dales from Western Michigan. Learned a lot, fashioned a lot of my training after those sessions. We ended up winning the NCAA championship back in '64, '65, and I was one of the lower end fellas on the team. But I always thought that it would be really a cool idea to go back and coach at Western Michigan and take over for my former coach. Unfortunately, the program has been dropped in the past 6 months. And I studied a lot of Lydiard early on. He was real famous in New Zealand in the 50s and 60s, which is really helpful when you have Nick Willis here, who's from down under, and to meet fellows like Peter Snell has been very, very rewarding in that sense. But I studied anatomy and physiology in college, and I really get into the physiological aspects of it, which is, if you understand that, you can understand the basics of training, which we pretty much do. They haven't changed that much over the years. It's just the way you do it, when you do it, and how you do it.
Most programs have a middle distance coach and a distance coach. You coach them both here at the university. What are some of the workouts you have that short distance guys do versus the long distance?
Well, we start in September, and everybody, the middle distance, milers, half milers, 5 and 10,000 meters, we all do the same thing. I call cross country group therapy, because we all are basically doing the same thing. And I pretty much keep everybody together throughout the fall. The difference is the half milers who are not training to race cross country do about half the volume of the longer distance runners. So, but the principles are the same. We're trying to build up aerobic versus anaerobic capacities at any given time of the season. We want to strengthen their legs and have a total body strength developed in them before we get into any kind of quicker stuff, which starts in January, February, and March. Once we come to the indoor season, I still keep the strength work up via, as you all know, we do time runs indoors here. We do 4 miles in lane 6, which gets monotonous sometimes, especially when I get confused and I don't know where everybody's at in 3 different groups. But from there, we do lots of hill training. We do repeat hills every Monday, and we do this for a period of 4 to 6 weeks, right through till the middle of February, which we're starting next week and the week after, to make a transition from not just all the hill training, but we're kind of weaning everybody off the hills and getting them into faster stuff on the track. The half milers already weaned off the hills, and it showed up this past week when they had a couple of fellows run 152 and 153 versus a week ago running 157s and 8s. So there's a definite advantage of bringing your short distance people off the hills at an earlier time. They need to be running faster, 55-second quarters, 40-second 300s, 27-second 200s versus 60-second pace continuously. So that's the basic difference. And then once we get going pretty quick. And even the distance kids get to start running pretty quick in about another 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. Now, you're a big advocate of strength, but you also have all of your kids doing a lot of really fast stuff, not a lot of pace work here. What are the differences?
Because you have to be strong enough to be able to use your abilities at the end of a race. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what the pace is. At the international level, and even at the American level, elites, it's about winning races and trying to place in the top 2 or 3. So you have to be able to run tactically. The races are fast, slow, fast, slow. They're not very rarely are they a very an even pace type of thing. I think that's where the American distance runners get into trouble. They all want to go slow and pace and pace and pace and then kick at the end. Years ago, when I watched the Kenyans come to this country and run in college, they'd be running along at 5,000 meters and a 10,000 meter run, and they'd be going at 70-second pace and then drop to a 62. And the Americans wouldn't go with them. And then as soon as they made the break and they opened up 50, 60 yards on the rest of the field, they would stop the 62-second pace and go back to 70-second pace. So my theory is just keep going just back and forth. And I think with the strength, you develop enough strength to be able to use your basic speed at the end of a race. That's all you need to do. We do a little bit of pace work, but a lot of it's strength work on hills, timed runs. And I think if they get their mind into racing, that pace work is, you don't even hear the pace clock anyway. Very rarely do you hear it if you're into racing and wanting to be in the top 2 or 3 in any race you're in.
Just wanted to ask you a quick question about the first time I came up to work out with you and meet you at the university, and you have quite a story about my workout I did.
Oh yeah, it was very interesting. I got a call from some people that I know from Adidas and wanted to know if Timmy could, if I could start working with Timmy, and I said, well, I don't know, he's hayseed from, Alabama or wherever he was from at the time. So anyways, make a long story short, he came up, and I knew who he was, and I had seen him before, and I don't think he probably knew my name, but he'd never really seen me in person. So he came in the field house with Vanessa, and so it was just like a test to see how fit he really was. And I said, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to run 20 quarters, and we'll go with about a 110 jog, and we'll start at 60, and every fourth one we'll try and go a little bit quicker. So, and there wasn't hesitation in him at all. And I said, I'll find out how tough this little bastard is. So he started going, and I had this young man named Mark Pilja here, and I said, Mark, I got the other workout guys going. I didn't want to make him feel that important. I was going to drop everything to coach him, and stuff. So he started running quarters, and it was 65, 66, 65, 62, and going back and forth. And all of a sudden, there was four or five quarters to go, and he's down to 64, and he said, I don't need the 110, I'll just take a short rest. I think he ran his last four with a 50-yard jog in like 62 and 3, and he just kind of walked over, and I said, I guess you're pretty fit. And I was very, very impressed with his ability to do that, being that he hadn't done much before as far as an interval session to come in here and do that. And then what really impressed me the most was he warmed down and got in the car and drove 6 hours back to Peoria. And I called him the next day and said, how you feel? He said, I'm okay. I said, your legs aren't sore? He says, no. So that's how our relationship started. And that's how it got going. And he's got an incredible ability to, I have no problem with him being on the Olympic team. Simple.
I want to thank you again for joining us today. This has been Tim Broe on the Running Network, and we look forward to seeing you soon.